To anyone that has a disability or disorder, what's the worst thing a teacher's ever said about it?
Firstly, I'm going to say don't watch this if you're like below the age of 12. I don't know kids these days. I don't know. But anyway, I've diagnosed gender identity disorder or gender dysphoria. I'm a tranny, basically. And my principal told me that being uncomfortable wasn't a good enough excuse. I also have an anxiety disorder diagnosed as well. And while I was having a panic attack, and you know, when you're having a panic attack, you can't exactly breathe properly. And she told me, with her face in my face about this close, she was just like, just breathe, it normally helps. And on a side note, she also said to me that we couldn't have trans education in the school because some of the first years still believed in Santa.
To anyone that has a disability or disorder, what's the worst thing a teacher's ever said about it?
I have a neuromuscular disorder called dystonia, and it's a functional disorder, so things trigger it. In 10th grade, I had fitness at the end of the day, like the very end of the day, like 5th period. And we were doing this exercise this one day, pushing like a 25-pound weight across the floor, like on a towel. And about halfway through the class, this triggered my back, and my back really started to hurt, and I started to get like this, because that's what happens. And I told my teacher, and she was like, you're fine. It's almost the end of the day. So I was like, okay. So I kept going. A couple minutes later, I literally couldn't walk and I couldn't breathe because my rib and my hip were crushing my right lung. So I went over to my teacher and I was like, I need to call my mom. I need to go home now. I need my meds. I couldn't bring my meds to school because they were opiates. So, you know, controlled substance. Meanwhile, I could barely even talk to her and tell her I needed help because I literally could not breathe. And she said, no, you can wait. Part 2's already out. Okay, part 2. One of my good friends, like, heard what was going on, and she knew about, like, what was going on with me, sort of thing. She was like, she needs to call her mom. The teacher then got a little bit concerned because she could hear that I literally couldn't breathe, because this is what my breathing sounded like. After she clued into the fact that I literally couldn't breathe, this bitch did a 180. It was no longer, you need to wait till the end of the day. It was now, we need to call an ambulance. I was bawling my eyes out, couldn't breathe, in so much pain, and I'm like, I don't need an ambulance. I just need to call my mom and get my meds. I just need to go home. And she was like, oh, no. So she called 911. When the paramedics got there, they needed to search my bag for whatever reason, and the vice principal was there helping them search my bag. The vice principal then found my vape, which was a suspendable offense. I'm sorry, part 3's already up. Part 3, the vice principal looked at me and goes, did you smoke something? I was like, no, bitch, I have a fucking disorder. Keep in mind, this shit was like a box mod with fucking zero nick. Like, there was, like... Anyways, so the paramedics picked me up and put me on the stretcher. There were so many exits they could have taken, considering it was the end of the day and everyone was in the atrium. But they decided to roll me through the entire school to go out the front door at the end of the day. So I was lying on the stretcher, bawling my fucking eyes out, also strapped down to it because I was losing my shit because I literally didn't need to go to the hospital, and I was like, oh my god, they're gonna tell my mom about the vape. So I was losing my shit, so they strapped me down to the fucking stretcher and rolled me out while I was crying and couldn't breathe in front of literally the entire student body. And then they took my ass to the hospital. I can't even put into words the embarrassment I felt when I went back to school a couple days later.
I got you. So in the midst of all of this, no one fucking called my parents. Like, no one thought, oh, this 16-year-old girl can't fucking breathe. She's strapped to a stretcher in an ambulance on her way to the hospital. Her parents work an hour away. Maybe we should fucking call them and let them know, maybe? Anyway, so my vice principal came with me in the ambulance to the hospital. And when we got there, she called my parents. As I previously mentioned, my parents work an hour away. And the whole time we were just sitting there waiting for my parents or waiting for, like, the doctor to come see me. I couldn't breathe. I was strapped to the stretcher, freaking the fuck out still. And the fucking vice principal is just grilling me about the vape she found in my bag, which was making me cry even harder and making the situation even worse. Within the next hour, my parents got to the hospital, and the first thing this bitch did was tell them about the vape. Let me know if you want a part 5. Probably the last part. Also, let me know if you want me to do more story times. Anyway, Anyways, my mom didn't get mad about the vape because she was more focused on the situation at hand. She wasn't even that concerned about me because we both knew that I just needed my medication. This was not the first time that this had happened. She was just more concerned with how the school decided to handle it. Anyways, I spent the rest of the night, probably 5.5 to 6 hours at the hospital, and the doctor sent me home with the same meds I told my teacher I needed to go home and take in the first place. The fucking embarrassment I had a couple days later when I went back to school, what I can't even put into words. All of my friends knew what was going on, and I was fine with them knowing. But I really wasn't looking to have the entire fucking student body see me having a fucking panic attack, not being able to breathe, strapped down to a stretcher, being rolled into an ambulance. So yeah.
To anyone that has a disability or disorder, what's the worst thing a teacher's ever said about it?
Ooh, I've been waiting for this. So I have epilepsy, and I have pre-seizure warnings. We call it glitchy. So one time in math class, I was feeling glitchy, like I felt like I was gonna have a seizure. And I had a tendency, like, not to be in class. Like, I'd walk out and never come back. And we had a substitute teacher who didn't know my seizure protocol. My girlfriend, Sarah, like, she knew something was wrong. And I was like, I don't feel good. Can I go to the bathroom? The teacher looked at me, glared at me, and was like, no, you can stay here. You have a tendency to leave. I'm like, I feel like I'm going to have a seizure, like I need to go. And like Sarah was like, she has epilepsy. Teacher's like, no, you can stay here. So I got mad. I looked at her and I was like, fuck you. I feel like I'm going to have a fucking seizure and you're keeping me in class. I'm leaving. And she's like, if you're leaving, don't come back. I'm like, Sarah, come with me. She's like, no, Sarah, stay in the class. So I left, and then Sarah followed me, like, for part 2. Part 2 about my seizures. So the teacher's like, Sarah, stay in the classroom. And Sarah's like, her seizure protocol that you don't know about is somebody needs to go with her. And she's like, I don't believe it. And I've never seen the substitute teacher before in my entire life. So I could tell she was new. And I get that I had a tendency for leaving, and I understand her reason for trying to keep us both in class. But who the fuck jokes about having a seizure? Like, even I wouldn't go that far to get out of class. Anyway, so I leave. And I go to the bathroom. I left my phone in the classroom by accident to prove to her that I was coming back. And Sarah ended up following me, but I didn't know that because she wasn't behind me when I was there. And I asked somebody in the bathroom. I was laying on the bathroom floor, like I was about to have a fucking seizure. And somebody who I'd never talked to in my entire life, she was one of the popular girls, was like, are you okay? Like, do you need something? And I was like, I need to call my mom. Like, I don't feel good. I'm gonna make another part. Part 3. So I'm laying on the bathroom floor, like, about to fucking have a seizure. I'm shaking. This girl's like, do you need help? And I'm like, yeah, can I borrow your phone? I need to call my mom. I feel like I'm gonna have a seizure. She's like, yeah. Like, okay. Called my mom. Couldn't hold a straight conversation with her. So she knew something was wrong. And I swear to God, my mama bear just about lost her shit. Sarah entered the room, and I told her, I was like, the teacher wouldn't let Sarah come with me. Like, she doesn't know my seizure protocol. She thought I was lying. Like, I'm in the bathroom shaking. My mom was like, stay there. I'll be right there. My mom's a teacher at another school. So, like, Sarah walks in the bathroom. Miss Domino comes in. That's like the hub teacher. That's like the support teacher. My mom called the other teacher, like Miss Domino, and lost her shit. I'm going to tell you what she said. I'm totally going to tell you what she said in part 4. My final part. This is what my mom said to one of my teachers. Ms. Domino, the best teacher. She is like fucking amazing. I love her. She calls her and she's like, go and find my fucking daughter. She is in a bathroom somewhere about to have a seizure because her teacher does not know her seizure protocol. And I'm pretty sure my mom was more mad at the fact that, like, no one educated the fucking substitute teacher about my epilepsy. But, like, who lies about having seizures? So Miss Domino comes in freaking out, as, like, per usual. My mom gets there. She was not impressed. Sarah was, like, beside me the entire time because she was like, 10 out of 10, like, I don't deserve her. She's like sitting there making sure I was okay. She didn't give a fuck about that teacher. She knew something was wrong and she came with me. That's a true best friend. Once I was all situated in the car with Sarah, she went back upstairs to that math class and just sorted everything out. Pretty sure my mom got her fired. When someone says they're gonna have a seizure, they don't lie.
Jakby nie tak, jak grysny na wesele. и не знал, что я в тебе потерял. Грустно внутри, не хватает тебя, в ответ опять тишина. Светофор повышен, так